Good afternoon. One of the important topics that is going around is about the CSR activities undertaken through a Section 8 company or a trust or society which is registered. Now here, a lot of questions definitely arise, but most importantly we should know that there is a provision which was introduced by the amendment of Rule 4, in fact substituting the Rule 4 of the CSR policy rules, which says it should be registered from 1st April 2020. There is going to be a CSR Entity Registration form. Though it is called CSR form, it is like actually CSR Entity Registration form. You will be aware that the company which is required to undertake CSR activity can undertake it directly, or you can undertake it through an entity which is CSR entity. It can always form a Section 8 company, or it could be a public charitable trust duly registered under the Income Tax Act Section 12A, so that the income which the trust earns is not subject to tax. And Section 80G, for example, if you donate money to a trust, charitable trust or charity, there is a benefit to the donor that 50% of the amount donated will be entitled to be deducted from its profits as if it is money laid out for exclusively for business purposes. So 80G benefit. Society under the Societies Registration Act, company itself can form, or a group of companies can jointly become the founder of or promoter of an entity so established for the purpose of undertaking CSR activities. Now, one of the questions is whether it is required to be registered. Yes, the 1st April there is a provision. It says you have to apply under CSR form. There is some CSR 1 is given and you file it. Now, whether track record is required for such a company or trust or society, if the company itself is establishing no such track record requirement, because it is established for that purpose only by the same company which is undertaking the CSR activity. Of course, there could be a group of companies. All of them put together can become the promoter or trustee, founder trustee, or author of the trust or settler of trust, so that for each of those companies it becomes ordinarily an entity established for its own purpose. So if you see CSR 1 form, it will be written that CSR entity, whether it is formed by the company or a group of companies. So that for each of those companies you don't need to really look at. For example, a group holding company establishes a CSR entity as a Section 8 company or a public charitable trust. What happens is, for the purpose of other companies in the group, can they use the same CSR entity will be a question. Whether that entity becomes a third party entity so that the condition relating to 3-year track record will apply or not. Definitely it will apply if it is established by some other company, but if it is a group of company and all of them have professed to promote it for the purpose of the entire group's CSR activity, because if you put all the money together through an entity, CSR entity, it will become a very useful way of creating some CSR activity of a perennial, permanent nature for a long duration. The benefits will go to the intended beneficiaries. So we have to take care of that. And another point is it should be registered, whether it is third party trustee or trust or society or Section 8 company or company promoted, it requires to be registered. So when you are undertaking CSR activity for your company through a trust established by somebody, an NGO for example, see that there are two things. From 1st April it should have been registered. Number 2, it should have a track record. When it comes to track record, the question will be, what is track record? The moment an entity is established and it undertakes CSR activity, it is not going to get 12A 80G. It will get its own time. Normally, to my knowledge, with my experience in 12A registration, 80G recognition, it takes time. The Commissioner of Income Tax, Principal Commissioner of Income Tax is not immediately granting. You have to produce the vouchers for years and show that you are really doing charitable activities in order to be entitled to 12A registration. And in addition, the Section 80G benefit to be conferred. And therefore, there is a track record. The moment you start activities which are CSR activities generally in nature, covered by some of the broad areas or subjects specified in Schedule 7 of the Companies Act, you can always claim that you have a track record. It's not that after 12-year registration or ATG only your track record must start. See, this is another important thing. Secondly, you should also remember whether it is necessary that the track record means Schedule 7 activity or yes, Schedule 7 activities, whatever activity, charity, this particular trust or society or Section 8 company is doing, it should be capable of being brought under the broad headings or areas or subjects in the Schedule 7. Another aspect is, what about the size of the activity? In order to qualify to be a track record, is there anything called size? For example, a trust may be undertaking in a small level, helping the disabled. Whether a big amount can be given to such a trust for the purpose of undertaking CSR activity for the promotion of welfare of disabled? Yes, nothing is provided. Only thing, we have a responsibility at the company level, at the board level, to ensure that the trust or agency which is registered in accordance with Rule 4 is having track record and it is capable of doing it. The ultimate intention of the CSR company which is undertaking CSR activity should be to ensure that the funds are used for the purposes for which they are granted. So there must be some level of self-responsibility in corporate social responsibility to see that the agency you are engaging is really a genuine agency capable of doing justice to the amount that you are going to grant for a project, and you should be able to monitor the implementation. You should be able to get entire track record. You should be able to see that they are doing it honestly, and there are things which are vouchable, verifiable. There could be audit, there could be implementation monitoring, there could be a case where you are supposed to study, an impact assessment is required for which you need evidence which are document based. They have the resources and wherewithal to deploy these funds to achieve it within the time specified for that purpose. All these must be taken as a corporate social responsibility related self-responsibility of the board of directors of the company. Very interesting. Therefore, sometimes it may feel, if there is a group of company, it would as well create a structure which is its own, and it takes care of that through the CSR department. Of course, administrative overheads up to 5% is permitted. So you can always create some sort of a department to coordinate, oversee, implement, get everything done, check whether this project is going to take time. All those things, it can be easily done. And therefore, essentially, we should know that there is a registration requirement, ensure that it is done. There is a track record requirement, ensure that it is done. And also see that the track record pertains to CSR activity, which could be broadly brought under the areas or subjects specified in the Schedule 7. And with this, I believe you will be able to get it done through a channel directly or through an agency or entity set up by you. And ultimately, you must be able to identify what is the amount to be spent, and there is no unspent amount remaining at the end of the year except in relation to ongoing projects which are capable of being defined. When you say ongoing project, you should be able to show what is the date of commencement of the project, what is the definition of the project, what is the size of the project, what is the value of the project, when is it likely to get completed, what is the timeline specified, who is implementing it, who is monitoring it, and ultimately you should be able to show that it will take some more time, and in such a case you are entitled to transfer it, the entire unspent amount relating to the ongoing project, to an account within the 30 days time, and thereafter ensure that the project is completed. See, these are all very, very difficult technical things which have to be created, which have to be checked, which have to be audited, which have to be reported, which have to be disclosed. Otherwise, of course, penal provisions are also introduced. But generally, I can say that it is a sort of a self-responsibility, and government may ultimately bring a map of the whole of the CSR entities and their activities and monitor what they have done, where they have done, what are the areas where things have not really been done, which are the areas where no activity has taken place though there is need. The government can really pass direction to a class of companies by virtue of the section 135 and ensure that things reach to all the places. Ultimately, the whole of India must benefit, and the poor and needy should be able to get what they want, and also the deserving sections of the society get the intended benefits. The government probably says yes, it is time for public-private partnership, and CSR is, in my opinion, a job which is now expected to be undertaken by the government, but in view of the efficiency acknowledged of the private enterprise and the entrepreneurs, I think this has come this way, and it can never be said any longer it is do or explain. It is do, otherwise face the difficulties imposed by the transfer requirements of the funds unspent to a fund until the fund is specified. Any of the funds in Schedule 7 can be used, and if you don't do it, yes, there is some penalty also, unfortunately. And we don't know whether the government is going to introduce Section 37 benefit under the Income Tax Act for the entire CSR expenditure. Therefore, CSR expenditure definition, CSR expenditure accounting, vouching, auditing, books and records. Also keep it. Any time the government can always say yes, CSR expenditure can also be added as deductible because it is mandatory. When it is mandatory, I am of the view that it must be treated as exclusively laid out for business purposes. Thank you.